Welcome to the Murabiyoon Show, raising awareness of Islamic schools.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, not too
Good.
bad.
So, as I was preparing and I was thinking about coming up to see you, I did a couple of things. I was just thinking to myself, reflecting, what the discussion we're going to have, and inshallah, we've got some ideas about what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about. And then the second thing, I thought to myself, it's quite interesting. Let me listen back to our previous episode.
Yes.
Okay? And can you remember some of the snippets and some of the things you mentioned in the previous episode? I know you've been keeping a tab on how many views you got.
No, not from that, I haven't. Actually, I don't know. Have there been any views? I do remember it was, a lot of it was to do with our primary school and why I even came into education, why even Islamic school. So yeah, I do. And my passion with regards to coaching, I think I was talking about that, and about developing people, which I'm still absolutely passionate about. Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
No, good, because I was just listening on it and I picked up some bite-sized nuggets, which I'll drop in throughout the conversation.
Okay.
But first and foremost, mashallah, you were the first guest I ever had.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. You're the first returning guest.
Okay.
Yeah, which
Great.
is pretty impressive. So it's a first for everything. I can't quite remember how many days it's been since we last spoke, but it's probably into it was 2 years ago?
I think so, at
Maybe
least. I
18
was trying
months
to
ago.
remember.
It's
Yeah.
probably over 500 days. So,
Yeah.
but what's amazing is, mashallah, during that episode that we did a couple of years ago, just down the road there,
Yes.
you said something, and I asked you a question about what your vision was
Mm-hmm.
and what you wanted to work towards. And mashallah, you said a secondary school. And where are we?
Alhamdulillah, our secondary school.
And you know what's amazing? You gave yourself a 5-year target. I set the scene, I said within 5 years,
Nice.
or you got up to 5 years. And you said you want to establish a secondary school. And mashallah, here we are, 18 months, 2 years on, and you're in your secondary school, which is open. Mashallah, that's absolutely amazing. The fact that you were brave enough to put it out there, you were very clear in what you're trying to achieve. And you know what? I've just, through the conversations we've had over the last couple of years, and alhamdulillah, with Allah's mercy and the support of the community, you guys are here.
Alhamdulillah.
How does it feel to be having this conversation in your secondary school?
Subhanallah, it is an honor, alhamdulillah. I didn't realize that I had actually given ourselves a 5-year goal, but the fact that we are here, in all honesty, it is a miracle, because yes, we did have the intention of opening up a secondary school, and our intention was to actually organically grow.
Yeah.
So we were going to actually use the primary site.
I remember.
And
that's why I
go
was
up.
confused.
Yes,
Remember the last time
that's right.
What were you doing here? I thought you were over.
Yeah, so the idea was that we'd go up and our year 6s would transition on to a year 7, and then we'd give ourselves about 2-3 years before we found another place where we would, transfer. But subhanAllah, to actually acquire this place in such a short time, I mean, that in itself is a miracle. I mean, to find any place within Ilford is hard enough. To find it literally 3 minutes walk away from our primary site, that's a miracle in itself. And it's a beautiful site. And you've seen it. We've got the best views. I can honestly say it's probably got the best views any secondary school could possibly have, alhamdulillah, overlooking Valentine's Park. So yeah, it feels, it's been hard work, alhamdulillah, and the trust has really, we worked hard on this. But I think we worked hard on this because of the community, because there has been a need. We've been asked, we've had the primary school now, it's 20 years, funnily enough. So this year is actually our 20th anniversary of our primary school.
And it's planned for it?
Inshallah, later this year, hopefully we've got something there. And it's just coincidence that we've got also a celebration of opening the secondary school.
Really
so,
good.
to commemorate that, alhamdulillah. But I think it's, we've not really acquired this that long. We've had this now a year, this building.
The building you acquired.
The building, a year. And it's taken us 1 year, which I think is actually quite a short time to actually acquire the place, get it ready, and to have a secondary school registered. Actually, not one secondary school, two secondary
That's
schools.
amazing. Yeah, so just for clarity, it's a boys and a girls
Yeah.
secondary school, all of this one site.
That's right. All in
You know,
one
just
building.
as we were walking up and you were saying, you know, and those who are in this space and have had some experience about registering a Muslim school, it's a chicken and egg situation. And
Yes.
it's building first, students first. You know,
Yes,
what do you do?
yes.
How do you approach it?
Yeah.
Do the numbers balance? Somewhere along the line, in everything that you said, you had to take a leap of faith.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, you had to basically be courageous and put yourself out there. Like, talk to me about like how did that happen? You know, over the year, because acquiring a building like this takes a lot of resources, a lot of bravery. So, talk me through that. When this came in the market, how did you guys respond?
Well, this is the thing. It actually came on through one of our a previous trustee, actually, who was also a parent, and he brought it to the table. We actually tried to go for another building before this,
Okay.
and didn't quite. We weren't successful, and alhamdulillah, Allah plans, and He's the best of planners. And so when this came along, it was. What we did have to take a leap of faith, because it's not like we had the money.
Yeah.
Um,
That's not unusual. by the
it's
way.
not unusual, and Islamic schools, this is a
Islamic organisations full stop.
yeah, absolutely,
It's about visions.
absolutely,
and then-
it is. But we did have a vision, and it was about in order to make that happen, there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has facilitated it.
Yeah.
And it's about putting faith in Allah and saying Bismillah and doing the best we can.
Yeah.
There is a certain thing that I've learned over the years, and I guess that comes maybe with a bit of maturity, I hope, is that it's not about the outcome.
Yeah.
It's about the effort and the intention that goes. The outcome is with Allah. Whether we actually got this place or not,
Yeah.
that was with Allah.
Yeah.
We just had to put the effort in
Yeah.
and do the best we can.
SubhanAllah. You're consistent,
Yeah,
because you said exactly, pretty
Yeah.
much word for word, the same thing in your previous.
yeah,
I was listening to
Yeah.
it on the way up, and so you're, mashallah, very consistent in your
yeah.
in your approach to this.
No,
endeavour.
absolutely, and I think that's the thing that keeps me going, because otherwise, if it's always about the outcome, then in all honesty, I'd probably sit there beating myself up because I haven't quite reached it.
Yeah.
So it's not about that. That is with Allah, but it's about Allah putting you in a place for a reason, and you need to just work out, okay, what is that reason,
Yeah.
and just work towards that.
So the building came on the table.
Yeah.
So you guys pretty much made a decision quite quickly. I
We
imagine?
had to make a decision quite quickly, because it was okay, if we don't take it, then someone else will acquire it. And so yes, we did have to make that decision. And then it was okay, when do we want to open? Our intention, in all honesty, was to open last September,
Okay.
but things didn't quite go
Yeah.
accordingly. And we just plodded on, trying to put all the pieces together. Alhamdulillah, in February we got our registration.
Yeah.
So just February gone. We did have some students already on roll, alhamdulillah, and so managed to sort of transition them over. It is a small group, so we've started off with year 7, 8, 9 for boys and 7, 8, 9 for girls. And inshallah, we are, alhamdulillah, recruiting for the year 7, upcoming year 7s for September.
September.
And that's coming along well, alhamdulillah. There are things, obviously, we're learning as we're going along. Yes, absolutely, reaching out to other organizations, in terms of partnership. Because one of the things, this is a thing I think all Islamic schools, and I think I must have said this in my last podcast as well, is that what we struggle with, our biggest struggle, is always finances.
Yeah.
And as a trust, we've sort of sat down and thought about, okay, you know what, we need to change that somehow. We need to think of other models, sustainable models, to try and help towards that. And one of the things that I think we've decided is that we are going to really work on the apex waqf.
Yeah.
Because back in the days when Islam was at its peak, everything was operating on waqf. It didn't really matter if you were rich or poor,
Yeah.
but you had access to education, at free education. And that's because the Waqf was supporting all of that. And the Waqf is something that is supported by the community. And I think it's really high time that, the community needs to wake up and understand what Islamic schools are. Because there is a concept out there, misconception, that all Islamic schools are profit making and somebody's at the top probably making billions of pounds and everything else. Well, we're far from that. Far from that. If anything, our teachers are subsidizing the cost. And that's not just for our school. I think the vast majority of Islamic schools that are funded through fees, it's been subsidized by the staff. And the funny thing is, we had an open day quite recently, and a father turned up actually. And when I sort of sat down, and we were just discussing in terms of schools and how we're planning to keep ourselves sustainable and everything. And I mentioned to him that, well, actually, our fees are quite low, and the teachers, we're not able to pay them the way we should pay them. But this is something that we are trying to work on, improving. And he was kind of astonished. It's like, oh, I thought there's somebody there like making lots of money. It's a profit making. I said, well, yeah, any money that's made, it's put back into the school.
Yeah, reinvested.
Reinvested, but it's not enough to keep schools going. And the thing is that our school, for us, it's not just a school. What we want this place to be, in all honesty, is a community hub. And we've started on that, I believe, as soon as we've sort of acquired the building. So, we've got other things going on within the building. We've had lots of events going on. I really want it to be a place where we are catering for our youth. And we really do need to invest in our youth, because I think one of the things that we don't seem to realize as a community is that, Muslims we're a very charitable bunch. We really are. When it comes to any kind of crisis, anything going on, Muslims are there. We can raise money easily. But when it comes to schools, there's just this reservation. And people do not want to invest in schools. And what they don't realize is that you're not investing in a school. You're investing in the future generation. There is a crisis going on out there, but we can't see it because it's not, explicit. And the crisis is with our youth. If you look out there, and we're living in Ilford, but you look out there and, and you have a look at the gangs, drug problems and everything, you will find that our children are behind quite a lot of these things.
Leading.
Why is that? Leading, absolutely. And it's such a travesty, honestly. It makes you, it's sort of heartbreaking, especially when you watch news and things that are going on, crimes that are going on, and you look at the names and it's a Muslim name, and you just think, I don't want to be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment and asked, this was happening, what did you do about it?
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing is that we do need to do something about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the thing is that, like, going back to our first conversation, you were quite clear in that you've got the primary school, and reading between the lines, the primary school can only do so much. And we know at that age there isn't really so much that you can do. And then once children start getting closer to adulthood and what have you, and they become a bit more impressionable, there's a different type of tarbiyah and nurturing that goes on, right? So tell me a little bit about what's going to happen in terms of the actual educational experience here versus at the primary school. What are the similar kind of initiatives that you're going to bring forward, and some of the different aspects that you're going to bring to the table? Because obviously a secondary school is different to a primary school, right?
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about that. What is the plan? What is the aspiration for the educational experience that somebody would have in this school?
I think, when we had kids leaving at year 6, we always had parents coming along and saying, look, why don't you do a secondary school? Because we really want the tarbiyah to kind of follow through.
So they were benefiting and seeing.
Absolutely,
okay,
yeah. And at that time, we'd always say, no, we're not quite ready. And that's exactly it. When we decided to put the, introduce the secondary school, it was about continuing on with that tarbiyah.
Great.
I mean, we've got values. Our values are, we base it on the fitra values.
Yeah.
And we all know that every child, is born on the fitra.
Yeah.
And it's that goodness, and innocence. And, our aim is to try and nurture that into the secondary school. You can't control children. You can't put them into a mold. That's not our purpose. It's there. We are here, in a sense, to nurture. But we want to do that with the partnership of the parents.
Yeah.
And so we don't want parents to think that, we've got a secondary school here, and so you can outsource. Because you can never outsource the tarbiyah of your child. It's always about looking at schools as institutions to help supplement what is going on within the home. And inshallah, what's going on with the home is an Islamic environment, and
how is it going to be different in the secondary school versus the primary school?
Primary school. Well, the secondary school, I guess, comes with its own challenges, and I feel that the generation now have it a lot harder than I think we did when we were younger.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more challenges that they have to deal with regards to social media, peer pressure, so many problems out there. And then there's a battle with their own identity. And I think that becomes much more apparent as they grow up into their teens. And, when you're going into, and I think that the whole idea of coming into an Islamic school is that you're not having that battle. It isn't about, am I a British person and am I a Muslim? But actually, you're both.
Yeah.
And being able to be comfortable in your identity as a Muslim and not have to feel like, embarrassed about, should I pray now? Oh, no, it's time to do it. Oh, my friends aren't doing it.
Yeah.
But it becomes a part of life, because
So
that's what Islam is.
solidifying their identity of who they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
able to
And making it a natural part of their life, rather than something that they have to sort of, make more exerted effort to become. And I think that's, in a sense, what we hope, inshallah, that the secondary school will offer. One, continuation of that tarbiyah, but also just solidifying the identity a little bit more. And without compromising on the opportunities that they would have in a mainstream school.
Yeah. So on that point, which I wanted to ask you, was that obviously goes without saying, and we don't try to compartmentalize it, but the other education that they're going to get, in terms of the subjects that they're going to be taught, and obviously, how do you expect that to happen in the school? How do you expect the quality of the teaching to be at the secondary school versus the primary school?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, in all honesty, it should be, the same in terms of exceptional.
Yeah.
And so, yes, of course, they are going to be learning maths, English, and all of those. That goes without saying. But it's also about ensuring that the tarbiyah side, we call it tazkiyah here. And for us, tazkiyah is Islamic studies, Quran, and Arabic.
Okay.
And they have a dose of that every single day.
Okay.
So in fact, as soon as they come in, you start off with du'as, you start off with the Quran, and that should be part and parcel of every day, and it feels natural to do that.
Yeah.
Praying in Jama'ah, that's something that they do.
Yeah.
And so, all of those things really just continue on from the primary, and you just enhance it and keep that as part of their full curriculum, in a sense.
When you acquired the school, what was the response from the community like when they found out? What was the reaction from the parents that are already there and the parents that have kind of sent their kids to schools over the last 20 years? What was that reaction like?
Well, like I said, in a short time to do that, in all honesty, I think, there was a surprise in most people because they weren't expecting it.
Okay.
So, alhamdulillah, they've been really, really supportive.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. And in fact, we've had loads of events that have gone on here.
Okay.
Everybody who comes in through the door, in all honesty, they come in and they're like, wow, it's such a nice place.
Where do you find this?
Yeah, how did you find it? And we say, well, it's from Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it wasn't our effort. It's like I said, we want this to become a community hub.
Yeah.
It's an extension of our primary in
Yeah.
a sense. And alhamdulillah, for our primary, it means that it becomes part of that through school.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
those
you know,
parents must be so pleased. I could imagine like a parent who's got a child in year 5 and 6 and starting to think about
Yes.
next step. They must be over the moon to think that actually, you know what, here's the outsourcing model.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
jokes aside, that must be just such a relief for them to know that. And I think, to be honest with you, like, it's testament to you guys, like, mashallah, you've done a fantastic job over 20 years, and to bring that in and to now offer this in a time when, there's still such a need, for this.
Yeah.
The community has got so many different challenges, and we need more good providers to come to the
Yeah.
table and offer what they're doing. And I've actually noticed a difference as well in terms of, like you said, that whole concept of a community hub with the kind of things that you guys are pushing out these days.
Yes.
I'm starting to think, are you a school or are you actually a community centre? But mashallah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic
Yeah.
because there's an even broader vision that you're trying to now
Yes.
kind of project with this facility. And I think, it's only, mashallah, positives. I mean, over the next year, as you kind of go through the process of admissions and, bringing in a new team in effect,
Inshallah, yes.
your role is going to be a little bit different, isn't it? Because you're kind of going to have a little bit of an executive role over both primary and secondary? Or?
Yes, I am. I'm still going to be heading over both schools. But, within, alhamdulillah, at the moment, for example, within the primary school, we've already got, alhamdulillah, a good team there.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to, let them get on, and I just sort of oversee.
Yeah.
Within the secondary school, that's exactly the plan as well, to try and grow a team here so that this school can also grow in its own right.
Yeah.
So that will be happening, alhamdulillah. So there is, and I mean, for September, for example, we'll have 4-year groups
7, 8,
out
9,
of the
10.
5. Yeah,
So
7, 8, 9,
will-
10.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then by the following year, September, we'll have a full cohort of, year 7 to 11.
What's the capacity?
250, so it'll be 125 for the girls, 125 for the boys. So our class size is going to be about 25 in a class, and it's one form entry.
I was going to say, when do you think you're going to start looking for a new building to separate the boys
Yeah,
and the
I know.
girls?
Well,
Because I can
this-
imagine, like, demand goes through the roof.
You know what? SubhanAllah, Allah knows best. And people come now and they say, okay, are you going to do A levels? And I said, you know what? SubhanAllah, we've got the secondary now.
Yeah.
Let's get this established. Let's get this going. And Allah knows best what else is in store.
Do you
We'll
wanna be
never
brave
say
en-
no.
Do you want to be brave enough and put a timestamp on the college?
Oh my gosh.
Last time round you said, I gave you
Subhanallah.
5 years and you did it, mashallah, in 2 years. This time round?
I'm going to give ourselves another 5 years.
Oh.
I know. And we'll try and beat it. Inshallah.
I'll hold you to that.
Inshallah.
I'll hold you to that.
So-
No, mashallah, you know what it is? I think momentum's there.
Yeah.
You've got the courage and you've got the backing of the community, so why not? So as we look to wrap and conclude, is there a message that you have for people listening in, potential prospective parents, maybe even some young people? What's your message to them? I think you've got a couple of open days planned.
Yes, alhamdulillah. Yes, we have got a couple of open days planned. And what I would say is that if you are a parent, then inshallah, come and check us out and see what we're about. Inshallah. If you are just a community person or just external, really, I would say, and you want to volunteer, there's opportunity to get involved. I mean, I would love to be able to, and I really am, this is something that I am planning on doing. I really want to set up a model where we have more involvement from community and community supporting our schools, not just ours. And I'd really like to be, inshallah, the first to try and set something like that up here. Really get the waqf going and demonstrate, actually, what, we as Muslim community can do this.
Yeah.
And if we can do it here, then you know what, you can do it for any other school, any other organization.
Definitely.
So I truly believe, because we've got lots of successful people within our communities, and it's about coming together and thinking about some of the models that are already out there by other communities. Academies have set up.
Yeah.
That they are funded by, businesses.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that? It's about finding like-minded people, inshallah. So if anybody's interested out there in terms of helping and getting involved, please do reach out to us as well, inshallah.
So, now look, today was supposed to be a quick
Yes.
tour, a quick stop, just to see how you guys are getting on.
Inshallah.
I'm really pleased for you guys, mashallah. I think
Jazakallah
it's amazing that you've been able to do this. Fantastic people, fantastic site. You've got so much going on. Allah give you guys success, allow you to get this
Jazakallah.
place, buzzing, get it
Inshallah.
flourishing.
Inshallah.
Allah give you guys success to set up the college, because we need colleges.
Yes,
We do need-
absolutely. I agree.
And,
Yeah.
and so that's a message to everybody who's listening. Set up a college if you've got secondary school. 'Cause
Inshallah.
that's another continuation of it. And inshallah, long may the primary and the secondary continue.
Inshallah,
And
yes.
weigh heavy on your scales.
Jazakallah.
Ameen.
Ameen. Ameen.